You to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to announce that in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. Is there any public comment from the board?
Mine would just be happy holidays. I think this is it before everything, so, and Happy New Year.
Awesome.
Great. Any public comment from the public? Please.
Tom Alonso, 284 Lancaster Avenue, coming before you as Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the Boys and Girls Club. Today we chose our grand prize winner. So if you're number 172, you won $2,500. I just want to say thank you to everybody who made this happen over the course of the last 12 weekdays, starting December 10th. I'd have to do the math. Anyway, but that we were able to give away over $3,500 in prizes and the cash prize. A lot of excitement, enthusiasm from the kids, a lot of involvement. I want to thank all our donors, all the local businesses who donated prizes all across town, and to all the people who made it possible by giving out flyers on Election Day and giving out flyers at town meeting, etc., and especially all the people who ran the event at the Boys and Girls Club, and most especially all the people who supported the event. It was able to raise over $8,000 for the Boys and Girls Club, so I think it's probably, although it's a little early now, but it probably will return next year, so we'll be able to do a better job marketing it and get more people involved. There were 215 tickets sold, I think to 185 people, so a lot of people bought more than one. So I just wanted to thank everybody for that and wish everybody who helped support it, and wish everybody in the whole town, actually, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. If I may, let's take that hat off. After watching last week's meeting, I just wanted to, for what it's worth, voice my support for putting the items that the planning board is requesting the board put them on the ballot. I do think there's a large enough difference between the ballot question that went statewide that allowed for the legalization or recreational use, decriminalization, whatever term you wanted to use, to make that available. And there's a difference between that law that was passed by that ballot question allowing towns to decide what they want in, I think, I have my own opinions about how I would vote on that vote, but I think it would be good indicator for this board and for the planning board and for the town at large to vote on those individual items. I would only issue one point of caution, and that is the planning board is going to be coming up with town meeting articles regarding regulations should the ballot questions get defeated and not pass. I hope that this board and the planning board comes up with a contingency. What happens if the regulations don't pass at town meeting? So if the regulations don't pass the town meeting and the ballot questions fail, then we're left without regulations. So I'm hoping that the regulations they're putting forward are going to be ones that get large amount of support at town meeting before we have the ballot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on that fundraiser.
Any other public comment from the public? Okay. Our first order of business is our 705 earth removal permit hearing. To all interested parties, the Lunenburg Board of Selectmen will be holding a public hearing on Tuesday, December 18th, 2018 at 7:05 at Town Hall, 17 Main Street, second floor, Bellata Meeting Room, Lunenburg, on the application submitted by the Lunenburg Water District, 50 Wazur Ave, for the earth removal permit in accordance with Article 9, Section 9 of the town bylaws. Said application is for removal of 20,000 cubic yards of excess fill material located at 496 Mass Ave, Lunenburg, Mass. Plans are available for review in the Board of Selectmen office at 17 Main Street during office hours Monday through Thursday, Lunenburg Board of Selectmen. So I'd like to call that public hearing to order. And welcome.
Welcome. Fran McNamara, Superintendent of Lunenburg Water District. As you mentioned, looking for a permit to remove excess material. And I don't know what the process is here, but whatever I need to do, I'm here to do. So,
Okay. In your package, there's quite a bit of material, background to this.
I guess I'm a little surprised that you're just now coming to us for an earth removal permit.
well, I didn't, this is all new to me, building a building like this. So I thought when we went through the whole planning board process and we received that approval, I thought that included the earth removal process.
Oh, okay.
So now that we're getting further on, we need to really start moving the stuff. The planning board authorization to remove the material doesn't take effect till we get the building permit. And that, we're not ready to get until we go out to bid and award the bid to the winning bidder. They pull the building permit, so we kind of need to remove the material before that time.
So you haven't removed any yet? You're just starting?
Very little, very little. Most of what we do is we haul, at main breaks, we haul in material, and I've hauled in quite a few loads of stone in the planning for the building of the retention pond, so.
Now, I had a question.
Yeah, sure.
The land use director's letter said 2,000, and everything else says 20,000.
I was just, correct. I heard 20, it says 2 in the letter.
Which
So
is
it
the right
20 or
number.
2?
20,000 is the correct number. The engineer plan, that number came from the engineers, the 20,000.
Okay.
Now, there's a big hole out there. Are you saying that you haven't taken much out yet?
We pushed it all to the side. So if you look in the back corner, it's pushed up on the hill to the right.
Okay.
So we moved it away from where the building was going to be constructed, and we pushed it up on the right side. But if we need to move that as per the plan, we have to taper the slopes to a 3-to-1 slope. So we have to remove that material to do the proper terrain, the tapering of the terrain.
But you are in fact planning on taking 20,000 out,
Correct.
and where does that end up going?
Well, most of the calls are from local contractors. They're asking for using their own foundations, for lots. So it's not anything that we intend on using. It's just for anybody who calls looking for a fill.
So do you charge them for it?
Yes, $2 a yard.
And so there's no cost to the water district for removing the fill?
Correct.
Oh,
Yep. So
that's
the
a good
deal is
deal.
they will actually bring in their equipment, load their own trucks, and count the truckloads and pay us for the truckloads.
So ultimately, you could make $40,000 on the
Correct?
deal.
That's the intent, yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, if I may,
Please.
I don't know much about, I'm new to earth removal permitting here, and I feel like it's been a fairly new topic for all of us. My only question would be, and it might already be in here, just erosion control
Yep.
in terms of, it's sort of an active site and being uphill, and
Right.
if that's part of the plan.
It is part of the plan. I did mess up. If you looked at the final, the permanent construction of the driveway, it drops down towards Route 2A and then actually drops below Route 2A. So any kind of material or water that flows off the hill will catch in a low spot, go in catch basins and drain off. I did have an issue where I didn't have that swale, so it ran out into the road. So, but yes,
It was
there is.
epic rain, though. I mean,
It
that
was-
was
it
like
was
a
crazy,
once in a
yeah,
100-year storm, but.
So there will be erosion, yeah, we have a permanent retention pond, all the water is gonna go to the retention pond. So, and that was all approved through the planning board, so it is all, yes, it's all, erosion control is taken
Okay.
care of. yeah.
Although, when I was reading over the conclusion from Whitman and Bingham, it says that there'll be no significant increase in the peak rate of runoff. Now, it's not your problem because they let you do it, but why are we allowing any increase in the peak rate of runoff? I mean, I guess that's a question for the planning board, but why aren't they asking them to decrease the rate of runoff? It just doesn't make any, like I said, it's not your problem, but when I was reading it, I'm going, really? That's okay? And do you know what course of action is available if there's too much runoff? are you bound to fix it? Do you know?
I would imagine. The way the engineers did it, they looked at the terrain of the soil, and they, half of the lot drains one way and the other half drains the other way. And that's all they wanted to maintain, is that the whatever, because all the water that's there is still there, whether we do it, what we're gonna do or not. And they just wanted to make sure they did the erosion drainage and maintain the same flows of the water. So I would imagine, I don't think anything's gonna be, nothing will be worse. And I would imagine if things do change, then the correct way, if there is an issue, the drainage pipe that crosses Route 2A was the question. That was the only part that was a question. And that's a state drain pipe, so it's not our drain pipe. So I think if there were any kind of issues, then that would be the way to fix it, increase that pipe size.
Yeah, but are you putting more water into the state drain pipe?
No, it'll be exactly the same. That's why the engineer set it up, so half the lot drains one way, half lot drains the other way. And so it should be exactly as it is or was.
And does any of the water drain toward the wetlands?
Not directly. It has to go through the drainage pipes to get to the wetlands.
Do you have any filters on it before it gets to the wetlands?
There's hay bales. The right side's the one where the water drains to. There's hay bales on that one. The other side has a ditch and a stone pile that the water has to go through the stone.
Will there always be hay bales there?
No.
It's just for construction
Yep.
then?
Yeah, it's going to go into catch basins and it's going to retention pond, and all that's going to settle in the retention pond, and then it'll all be clean.
But you've set up these drainage structures to exist while you're doing the earth removal. I know they're supposed to be there in the end game, but is there something in the midterm?
Right now, we have the bottom dug out, so it'll go into all the stone, and then there's trenches I dug to catch the water and slow it down, and then it goes to a little retention, not a real retention pond, but just a retention area. And so it'll sit and kind of settle out and then run through stone and then go to another one and drain across. So the intent though is just to stop the high speed of the water coming down the hill.
Yep.
And slow it down and catch what we could.
And do you have a plan on how you're going to clean those basins?
The permanent ones?
Yeah.
Well, yes. I think once the road's in and hot top, I don't think there's really going to be any kind of issue with cleaning them.
Oh, you have to clean them.
You have to clean them?
Yeah, you have to clean them, because they don't work if you don't clean them.
Okay.
They
Well, I'm
get
sure-
clogged up.
Okay. Well, we'll have to come up with a plan to clean them. It's nothing we haven't really thought of that.
And I feel like this is different than the other earth removal permits in terms of them being at ongoing sites where they intend to continue to remove. I mean, it says that the closure itself is the site plan and that it will become a built site. So I feel like some places, like when we're dealing with Keatings and Powell, the intent is to continue to remove earth. This is like a temporary self-closing plan.
Yeah, but there's going to be runoff.
And then I think that, I guess my point is I'm thinking that because the project itself has to go through planning board and meet all the criteria, that site will close itself when the building is done.
No, because you'll have the finished building and you'll still have runoff.
Right, but that'll all be a part of an approved plan for the project itself.
Yeah, that's
Right?
why I was
Am I
asking
missing
him,
something?
that's why I was asking him about cleaning it. Because they have to be maintained.
I'm just wondering, it's not really related to the earth removal permit itself. Some of these questions cross over more into the project that's out of the scope of the permit, maybe. It's a bit of a question, but I think this is an isolated permit for removing the earth, and then a lot of the other things that'll take place are part of the actual site plan.
Yeah, they already have their site plan review from the planning board from back when I was on
Yeah,
the planning
right.
board. So this is really more to talk about the safeguards put in place while the earth's being removed than the...
There actually is a memo in your packet on, that I'd like to read into the record. It's from the Land Use Director. It's dated the 13th of December, 2018, and it's addressed to me, but it's to the board, and it's in your packet. The Lunenburg Water District has applied for an earth removal permit for the removal of approximately 2,000, which we should correct to 20,000 cubic feet of material at 496 Mass Ave. As the Board of Selectmen is the permit granting authority, they should be aware that this property has received site plan approval from the Planning Board. This approval is dated 8 May 2017 and includes the construction of an office garage building and the appurtenant parking and operational facilities for the Water District's headquarters. The approved plan also prescribes final grading, ground cover, and elevations for this site. I would recommend that the board impose the following conditions. The approved site plan be accepted as the closure plan for the earth removal permit. The removal of material should not exceed the grades on the approved site plan dated 7 March 2017 with amendments 27 April 2017. And 3, the as-built plan submitted to the Planning Board shall also be submitted to the Board of Selectmen. This plan should outline the final grades and location of the facilities and any alterations from the approved plan. So that's the Land Use Director's recommendation. Any other questions or comments? Is there any input from the public? Any questions or input from the public? Okay, there being none, I'll close the public hearing.
And I'd move we approve the earth removal permit with the conditions recommended by the planning director, being the approved site plan be accepted as a closure plan for the earth removal permit. The removal of material shall not exceed the grades of the approved site plan dated 7 March 2017 with amendments 27 April 2017. And the as-built plan should be submitted to the planning board and the Board of Selectmen. The plan should outline the final grade and the location of facilities and any alterations from the approved plan.
Second.
Can I?
Yes.
Elaine had put a draft permit together. What I think also you may want to include is hours of operation, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and that signs to be installed warning of trucks entering, because it's on a major route.
Make that amendment to the motion.
Make that amendment to my motion to add that condition.
In a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, go build the building.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next appointment is with Victory Distributors LLA, license 00016-PK0636 for a change of DBA, doing business as, to Hannaford Supermarket and Pharmacy. Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm Jen Moore, store manager from the Lunenburg Hannaford, so I just know
Okay.
that I was supposed to come here today. That's all I really know.
All righty. So, just trying to find, is that in here someplace?
Are they changing the names of all the Hannafords?
It's been like that since 2009, so I don't know. Because when they said it to me, I was like, it's been like that for a while. So,
They just didn't do it officially?
yeah, maybe.
And that's the only change, just the name from
Yes.
food and drug to supermarket and pharmacy.
Yes.
Sounds like pretty much the same thing to me.
Yeah.
So I'd make a motion that we approve the change of doing business to Hannaford Supermarket and Pharmacy from Victory Distributors LLA.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much. Have a great holiday.
You too.
We can all rest easy now.
Right. Okay, our next item of business is to appoint 2 individuals to the Public Access Cable Committee. Mr. Pete Lincoln, for a term to expire June 30th, 2021, and Mr. Steve Ashenbo for the term to expire June 30th, 2021. I guess we'll take them one at a time. Can I ask you to come up, Pete? I also draw your attention to a note in the package from the PAC committee. Hi,
Happy holidays, folks.
same to you.
Wow.
Could you tell us
so
who you
I-
are and why you want to be on the PAC?
Okay, I was going to help you ask me questions. First of all, I think PAC is a terrific instrument in this town. I was on the 1986 Cable Commission that first got cable into Lunenburg, and it's light years the way the information is passed. It used to be simply rumor. And now there's instant information about everything. And I think both Steve and Joe do a terrific job in covering as much as they can in this town, both for education and information and recreation too. And that's the area that I'm most interested in. I've served various terms in cable commissions here off and on for 30-something years. And the last 4 or 5 years when I've been working with Channel 9 and doing programming has been a terrific experience. Debbie and I did some shows where we interviewed Boston Post cane applicants, 100-year-old ladies, and, and a man last time. It's fascinating to do that kind of interviewing with elderly people. We worked doing some Lunenburg 360 for a while when Dave Matthews was the moderator. But the last 4 years, we've done the Talking Baseball show, and it's been a family effort. Deb films it, my son and I run the show. We've done monthly meetings for 4 years now, over 30 shows. And I'd like to make a plug for our most recent show, since I got a bully pulpit here. On Saturday, the three of us went to Fenway Park to interview Gordon Eads. Some of you know the Eads family in town. Gordon was a 1972 graduate of Lunenburg High, and in high school, he used to write up high school football games for the Leominster Enterprise and the Fitchburg Sentinel for making $25 at a time. After college, he worked for the Chicago Sun-Tribune. He went after that to cover the Los Angeles Kings in Los Angeles. After that, down to Miami to cover the Marlins. He got a job working for the Globe to cover the Red Sox. And 4 years ago, he was named the historian for the Boston Red Sox. He now has an office in Fenway Park, 3 steps from the park itself. So we got a chance to go down and interview him, and if people in town would like to see a success story for a young fellow from this town, they should watch the interview. He's fascinating, interesting, very funny, and he also gave us a chance to walk through the park when no one was there and see parts of the park that you usually can't see, where the 600 Club is, and various trophies and things that have accumulated over the years. And the show is actually showing as we speak. So if you want to stay on this channel, fine, but...
We don't need the competition, Pete.
And so I thought this would be something I could lend a hand to, and I'd really like to join this committee and see what collectively we could come up with for new and exciting stuff.
Great. Any questions or comments for Mr. Lincoln?
Thanks for volunteering and for everything that you do already.
Thank you.
And could I ask Steve to come up?
Good evening, Steve Archambault, 662 Page Street, Lunenburg. So, why I want to be on the committee. Joe asked me if I'd be on the committee 3 years ago, and I said I would get around to it eventually. I taught for 35 years, and I've been involved in recording industry for 40. Before I taught, I worked for WJUL as part of their team. I actually trained people to be radio personalities. You might know at WMJX, Nancy Quill. I was her first instructor there. So I've been involved in audio all my life, and that's what I'm thinking I'm bringing to this committee is the audio knowledge. Joe and I, over the last few years, have discussed lots of audio things, and there's lots of video knowledge in the committee, but not audio knowledge. My last few years teaching, she and I did a project with the school where we did the Turkey Hill Middle School podcast. So that's my expertise I bring to the committee. I mean, I've been involved in sound. I work for MacGyver Recording Studios out in Scotia, New York. I've actually worked systems at Symphony Hall and done videoing at Symphony Hall and all that. So I have some knowledge in all that. So that's the expertise I bring, more audio, although I am trained somewhat in video. How's that?
Great, thank you. Any
Thank you
questions
for
or comments for
You're welcome.
Mr. Archambault?
Mr. Archambault was my middle school music teacher, too, so I can vouch for him in that.
The recorder, yeah.
All right.
I'd make a motion to approve the appointments of Pete Lincoln and Steve Archambault to the PAC with the term to expire June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, gentlemen. Get yourself sworn in and get to work.
And it's
Thank you
now a
very
full
much.
committee.
And that's right. Now, that is now a full committee.
All right. Thank you
Start
very
the
much.
waiting list tomorrow. Our next item of business is the town manager report.
The town received a notice of intent to convert Chapter 61B property at 994 Northfield Road from William Gustus on December 6 to convert 35.07 acres of land out of Chapter 61B to be used for commercial use. Section 9 of Mass General Law, Chapter 61B stipulates when Chapter 61 land is either sold or converted, that the Board of Assessors, Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Conservation Commission, and the State Forester at Mass Department of Conservation and Recreation be notified. In the case of an intended conversion of property, not including a sale, the town shall have the option to purchase the land at full and fair market value to be determined by an impartial appraiser hired at the expense of the town. This appraisal would need to be completed and delivered to the landowner within 30 days of the notice to convert. The option to exercise this right may only be exercised after a public hearing followed by written notice signed by the Board of Selectmen and mailed to the landowner. The Planning Board has voted to recommend the board not exercise their first right of refusal. The Conservation Commission meets tomorrow evening, and the Open Space Committee is scheduled to meet this Thursday. Given the succinct timeline, if the town were so inclined to exercise this right, and the inability to have an independent appraisal performed within the 30 days, and the lack of funding to do so, it is recommended that the board take an official vote at the next regular meeting on January 8th to not exercise this right.
Could you just stop for a minute and let that sink in? Basically, this is a piece of land that's coming out of chapter for commercial use, and if the town wanted to buy it, they have to act pretty quickly and pay for an appraisal. I actually think that the statute is written pretty tight, that
It is.
it's almost impossible to
It's a problem with the
do
law.
it. Right. But the recommendation is that we don't have the money all the time unless somebody objects, and we want to try to do something superhuman. We'll probably get it on the agenda and talk about it on the 8th.
But it seems like we should think about finding a better way. I mean, this must happen every time, you know?
Well, this is slightly unique in that it's not for sale. It's to take it out of chapter and keep it. And that puts the burden on us to do the appraisals and everything else. If it were for sale, you're trying to match a P&S, which makes it slightly easier.
I see. Does the
But
town...
you're right, I mean,
It's hard to talk about it without information about it.
Right.
Right, like,
Right,
because
yeah.
if you had a value, you'd be like, well, yeah, I mean, maybe. Could
Exactly.
we do this or that? But it's so gray.
When they take it out of 61, do they have to pay back taxes?
Yes.
How many years worth?
I would have to look that up.
Because it feels like, you know, in other communities, they set up a separate fund that takes those back taxes,
It's a rollback.
okay.
that takes those taxes
Right.
that suddenly appear, and they put them into a fund that goes to, is only used to buy pieces of land
Right.
to add. You know, it feels like we should really think about doing something, because A, we don't have the time, and B, the bigger things, we don't have the money. So if you started a savings plan with these, because these just go into the budget, right? The taxes just
general fund.
get rolled into the general fund. So if you could target them, I mean, you know, that's not the subject tonight, but it feels like,
When was day one of 30 days?
November
Well, we
28th
were,
or something?
the letter was dated November 28th. We received it December 6th.
So when does it start? When we receive notice, or when?
I asked that question today to council because there's two, if you read the law, the public hearing, it says upon receipt, but in other places, it doesn't say upon receipt.
So upon receipt would make it December.
Would make it January
that we
3rd,
received it.
or I counted it out, yeah. It's before January 8th, our next meeting. It would.
It actually came to our attention after the agenda for tonight was posted, so that's why we're not actually talking about it tonight. We're suggesting we talk about it next week.
And it wouldn't have given those boards sufficient time either.
And what's the date of our next meeting?
January 8th.
So there's no meeting between now and when it could be?
There's a special meeting with the planning board proposed for January 3rd, but we still wouldn't meet that timeline. And that we'd have to have a full appraisal done and pay for it by then.
It's sad because it doesn't give the town the opportunity to truly exercise what is intended here. And with a similar private property project that I worked on, even if the town doesn't have the money, sometimes people fundraise for opportunities like this. And something that seems impossible could be possible, especially if you knew the price and built in the time. So I don't know all the details, but in circumstances like this, I would certainly be willing to have extra meetings if necessary.
But if it was received on December 6th, why didn't it come up before now?
It gets reviewed by council to make sure the notice is sufficient.
Okay. So then,
And it was sent to all the other boards, and
Yes.
it's just when do they meet?
Yep.
So it's in front, it's on the docket for planning, it's on the docket for open space.
Yep.
Normally, we don't see it until they make a recommendation one way or the other, but some of them haven't even seen it yet
yeah, it
because
just,
of their scheduling.
maybe this isn't a really critical parcel, but it's kind of like, what can we learn from this experience, and is there anything we can do or set in motion?
Would we need a special fund to do what Phil suggested about the back taxes, or is that just something, how does that work?
I'd have to give that more thought, but my initial thoughts are you would only want to segregate those funds if the end purpose were to purchase that property. If in the event the town didn't purchase that property, the tax money is meant for the services and everything that that property would be converted to. If it were a commercial or residential property, someone could build a house there, then, they may have children that go to our school system. Those are all services that the tax dollars pay for.
Yeah, but the tax dollars would pay for those services going forward, once it's converted. I mean, there's something like 5 years worth of taxes, right? It's not an insignificant amount of money. And it feels like, don't make it property specific, make it a fund that's available for the acquisition of open space or of properties that are converted from.
I think that's something that's worth perhaps bringing to the town, as a warrant article or something to create.
Yeah, just maybe further discussion, I'm not saying we do it tonight, but, it's something to think about if we're always in this position. How can we put ourselves in a better position?
I don't think historically we've received, in the recent future, a lot of rollback taxes from chapter land.
But isn't that what happens? I mean, isn't there a set procedure?
Well,
There is a set
if you
procedure.
purchased it, or if they sold it to another buyer.
Is there a plot plan loaded somewhere in here, Heather, that shows this parcel?
No, because they were full-size
I feel like if this came up on December 6th and we have all this time, it would be really nice to have more information to be digesting. I mean, even just from the
This-
6th to now, there's 12 days.
This is the solar field, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is the
Yeah,
solar
so it's-
field.
But I mean, the community was really involved in that project, and a lot of people really felt strongly about this land, so it's,
but it's the solar project that was part of a golf course which is now going commercial, that's been talked about by the planning board, sent to court, remanded back to the planning board, several public hearings. I mean, you could have anticipated that this was coming, but it didn't come until December 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not really, I don't know anything about this parcel. I'm not advocating that we buy this parcel. I'm just thinking, can we come up with a better way to deal with
I think it's
conversion of Chapter 61B property?
It's worth discussion.
Thank you.
At a future meeting.
I think,
Yeah, right.
and I think
right.
the process and the lack of time you have to deal with is something that's clearly worth discussion, either to have a town contingency plan or to lobby the delegation to try to change the state law, because it does kind of put the handcuffs on you. But in this,
Right, yeah, it
but in
seems
this
it.
case, if it's already an approved commercial property, I'm not sure the appraisal's going to come up with a number that we can't touch.
Yeah, I'm really not
Right.
advocating for this property, just a better path down the road.
In
Yeah.
30 days, it's calendar days, business days?
Calendar.
Okay.
They couldn't make it much tighter, could they?
No. No, it's almost impossible. Even if you had 60 days to,
Yeah,
Timing.
I would think that's something worth advocating for to the
To our legislators.
legislators. So
Well, we'll get it on the January 8th agenda so that at least we can talk about it,
Great.
In this case, it looks like we're not going to be able to execute against it.
Right.
Thanks.
And thanks for stopping for that discussion. That's great.
right. An update from the Cemetery Commission on recovered headstones and military markers after the demolition of Holman Street building. Since the demolition of the Holman Street building and the uncovering of many headstones and military markers, Cemetery Commissioner Bill Tyler spoke with the previous superintendent and learned that most of the military markers are duplicates and many have errors. It is going to take quite some time for the Cemetery Commission to research and determine whether or not the headstones that are there were replaced, and if not, the old stones will have to be repaired. The Cemetery Commission will give an update at a future date. An update on the Green Communities competitive grant projects. The installation of the gas condensing boilers at the Ritter Memorial Building is installed. The LED lighting upgrades at the Public Safety Building, the Ritter Memorial Building, and the Town Hall are complete. Town facilities. The Town Hall handicapped accessible bathroom. The Town Facilities technician and I met with representatives from Monitech on Thursday, December 13th, and Monitech will be able to take on this project this year. Construction is expected to last up to 2 months and may start as soon as mid-January. This will save the town a significant amount of money, as we would otherwise be paying for the labor costs, which would have been subject to prevailing wage rates. Ritter Memorial Building shutters. The DPW director received a quote of approximately $9,000 to replace the shutters at the Ritter Building with new painted wooden shutters. That is not proceeding, that's just giving you an update on the cost to do so. RFP for rental space at the TC Passios. The RFP for rental of space at the TC Passios was due on Thursday, December 13th, and there were no bids received. The school facilities director will be reaching out to the one known party that had expressed interest to learn why they did not submit a bid. The revolving museum. We continue to work with the revolving museum to work out an agreement for use of the cafeteria space at the TC Passios in exchange for in-kind art projects and workshops. Part of the process is identifying possible projects that we would like in exchange for use of the space. This could be centered around, I'm just giving examples, a homecoming float, a mural at a park, or even an event that involves poetry. I will be reaching out to the relevant groups such as the school, the Cultural Council, the Parks Commission, the library, and the Boys and Girls Club for their input. And I welcome any suggestions that we can offer as part of determining the projects that will need to be used to fairly equate the value received for use of the space. The Finance Committee reviewed the fiscal '20 budget schedule and the dates that they will be meeting with the departments at their last meeting. We discussed and they agreed they would add snow dates on the Monday after their regularly scheduled Thursday budget meetings in the event that Thursday meetings had to be canceled. And this is last year. We had a number of meetings that had to be canceled. The schedule will be circulated with the departments to ensure they can attend on the proposed dates and then posted accordingly.
Will they post a whole schedule or them one at a time?
We can post the whole schedule
Great.
on.
That would be helpful, yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. The new budget dashboard with financial data, and I want to do a little demo. Very excited about this project. This is with the company ClearGov that we signed a contract with. And so this, the financial data will be complete for fiscal 18 by the end of this week. But so this is the site, the address, if you'd like to visit it now, and we'll be putting it up on our website, is lunenburg-ma.cleargov.com. And it's financial transparency. So the site, you can see data right now from up to 2017. And like I said, 2018 will be up by the end of the week. It shows demographic information and easy visuals, as well as you can drill down into financials, the revenue side, the expense side. So if you wanted to look at the revenues, it shows nice pie charts and bar charts depicting the percentages, where our revenues come from, the tax base, how it compares to other towns. You can put in how Lunenburg compares to another town, and we have comparable towns. I think I'm somewhat familiar, but not entirely yet with the site. But there is that capability to show that information, and as well as education data as well. And debt over time. So a lot of really useful information that I think will be helpful for residents to understand the budget process and the budget information. So I'm really excited about this. And I hope everyone else is too when they get to use it. Okay.
Thank you for working on this.
Thank you. Let's see, going back. So we had a department head meeting on December 4th, and here are some highlights from the meeting. The library was open after the Christmas tree lighting ceremony and served hot cocoa, and did ornament making, which was, I guess, well attended. And they're currently renovating the teen room. And at a date to be announced in either June or July, an author that had walked across America will be coming to speak at the library. The cable committee, the cable coordinator reported that they are currently airing the Knights Roundtable with the school superintendent and a promotional video on the Memory Cafe held monthly at the Eagle House. Recently, they had 2 videographers resign, but have hired 1 replacement to date. The town clerk, she is looking for a trailer to store all the voting equipment for an easier mobile setup at the voting location. The police chief has a surplus trailer that he offered if the space inside was large enough to fit all of her equipment. The town clerk also discussed the eventual need to have 2 separate polling locations due to the growing size of the town. Council on Aging, the Council on Aging Director announced there have been some recent repairs to the plaster at the Eagle House, and the walls in certain rooms have been painted. The dementia-friendly meetings have been moving forward, and the Memory Cafe has been a very big success. We had a meeting today, actually, the Action Committee on the dementia-friendly group. So, and we do need, because Bob was the Board of Selectmen member, we need a Board of Selectmen member to serve on that.
Do they meet? Do they have a regular?
They've been on Tuesdays at monthly, once a month, at 3 p.m.
It was going to originally at 10, but that's like
in the middle.
pickup.
Someone,
Because that is a topic I would love to be involved in, but that's a really hard time of day.
And what is the group?
It's the action committee to move forward to become a dementia-friendly community. So we're working on just the timetable of, to implement. There has to be an action plan adopted. There'll be at some point a community event to get input into that action plan. Responsible parties, what we would do, working with the business community and how businesses could become more dementia-friendly. It involves customer training of our staff as well to recognize people with dementia and how to be more patient and kind with them.
Would the group be open to meeting at, say, 2 p.m. on Tuesdays? I'd happily join the group, and when I worked, I mean, not just in general pharmacy, but I worked in this topic when I worked for Pfizer, and I would truly like to participate, but if they'd be open to like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday or something, I would happily join
Was it
as a
Tuesday or
representative.
Monday?
It's
Did I get the weekday wrong?
Tuesdays mostly.
Oh, Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So if it was 1 or 2 or...
Okay, I
Really?
can ask the chairman of the group, and he can circulate that amongst everyone. Okay. The Bridges Together program between seniors and Lunenburg students has wrapped up. There are wellness programs the senior center is hosting right now. Pickleball has begun at the Passios Gym, and Zumba will begin in January, also at the Passios Gym. The DPW winter began early this year, as we all know, for the DPW, and therefore also cut short the paving season. The vacant positions at the DPW are starting to be filled, including the mechanic position and the heavy equipment operator position. And especially the mechanic position affects the other departments because our police and fire get their vehicles and equipment serviced as well in town. The police department, the police chief continues to work on the accreditation, and the police department is expected to receive an electronic, and I spoke with him today, and he did receive it free of charge from the state. So this was a previous capital article that was funded, so totaling $25,000. So that $25,000 will now be able to be reappropriated
Great.
towards other capital.
So does that go to a police capital, or does it just go back into the capital bucket?
Back into unexpended capital articles, which we then use towards the capital budget.
Thank you.
The Land Use Director, the Open Space Committee has finalized the draft Open Space and Recreation Plan and is looking for comments from the appropriate officials and departments. The Stormwater Task Force is finalizing the comprehensive management plan for next year, and the Planning Board is continuing to work on recreational marijuana regulations. The Fire Department has hired a couple of new on-call members. They're starting to receive calls on the Sand for Seniors program, which is for homebound residents. And currently, engine number 4 is out of commission and will need approximately $15,000 in repairs to be functional. The replacement of engine number 4 was a capital request in 2016 by the fire chief to be replaced in the fiscal 20 capital plan. And the estimated costs for a new engine 4 is $685,000. The treasurer collector relayed that foreclosure proceedings have been initiated for 250 Howard Street. And the finance director was reporting that she was finalizing all the submissions to the Department of Revenue so the tax rate could be certified, which was certified last week, and bills sent out by December 18th. She's also working on updating the budget figures from the town meetings and budget documents and the financial forecast so the town manager can provide target budgets to all the departments. The IT director reported that we have moved to a managed print service system for town printers, and this also includes servicing those printers and includes the cost of toner replacement. The relocation of the Veteran Service Officer's Office. The Veteran Service Officer's Office will be moving from the Eagle House to an office in the Ritter building in a couple of weeks. The DPW relocated storage materials that were in an office in the Ritter building to the Brooks House and are in the process of having the Ritter office cleaned and painted prior to moving the Veterans Agent to the Ritter building. The office used at the Eagle House is not handicapped accessible, and this new space is accessible. So I think this will be a huge improvement for veterans seeking help, and also for people not having to go up and down those stairs at the Eagle House where his office was previously. Meetings and other announcements. I attended the Wreaths Across America ceremony last Monday at Monty Tech, along with Barbara Reynolds, who is our representative from Lunenburg on the Monty Tech School Committee, and accepted a wreath given to Lunenburg. The wreath was delivered to Town Hall on Thursday, December 13th, and our Veterans agent, TJ Blauser, picked it up and placed it at the Veterans Memorial Park for all to visit. The Salvation Army's Christmas Angel Program. This year's Christmas Angel Program was a huge success. I want to thank the people of Lunenburg for their generosity and outpouring of support in giving presents to children that would otherwise not receive gifts at Christmas. Lynette Valentine of the Salvation Army picked up a room full of clothes and toys on Thursday, December 13th. We hope to make this an annual tradition. Town offices will be closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. And just announcement about vacancies. The building commissioner position, the local inspector, and the assistant mechanic position are currently being posted and are vacant. If you know anyone that would like to apply, please tell them. And a list of vacancies on committees. We have one regular member position on the Agricultural Commission, one vacancy for a design professional craftsperson on the Architectural Preservation District Commission, vacancies on the Cultural Council, a vacancy on the Green Communities Task Force, and 2 associate vacancies on the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's all I have.
Any questions or comments on the town manager report?
I would like to thank the town manager for holding department head meetings and for letting us know of all the good work that's going on. It's great to get these updates. Thank you.
I agree. I think it's a good opportunity for us and for the town to hear the kind of activity that's going on in each of the departments. Are we working on getting a version of this or something similar of it circulated with the school board as
It's on
part
my
of our
list.
Because I think we agreed when we had our joint workshop that we were going to get something like this. It may not be this report exactly shared with the school board, and they were going to share theirs with us.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that would be great.
Thanks.
My only, sorry.
Good, no, good.
Comment would be, since we've been talking about shutters, is with the $9,000, I would definitely like to consider a shutter-free building. Maybe just power washing behind where they were, cleaning it up, because I think there'd be other ways to use the $9,000 in a building that may not need shutters in the first place. So just since that's one of our, we agree.
I agree, but don't let them power wash it though, because it's the worst thing you can do for historic brick, because you'll
We can
destroy it.
sponge
So
it clean. I'll do it.
hand clean it, please.
You know, they're planning on cleaning it. I'll, yeah.
No, well, I
Power
think-
washing wasn't mentioned.
And I'm really happy that Monty Tech's going to be able to do the handicap bathroom. That's great.
So there will be, for the public, it will be an inconvenience during construction because it's going to be, take up to 2 months during that time, but we still have a handicapped accessible bathroom downstairs. So just bear with us during this, but.
No, that's great. And I'm really pleased that the Veteran Services office is being relocated. That's brilliant, really.
It will be a good move.
Yes,
for
very good
everyone.
move. I think everyone will be very pleased with that. Thank you very much for working on these.
Welcome.
All righty. Current business. First one is annual license renewals for 2019. Now, we did our big package. I guess these were the outstanding ones. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to, Brandon Kibbe's here for the.
Okay,
open space?
yeah, I'm fine with that. The second item of current business is to talk about the open space and recreation plan, and why don't we move that up, and we'll do our licenses when that's completed. Is that all right? So let me just
great.
find that. Okay, so there's a a letter in your package with a link to the Open Space and Recreation Plan, and the Open Space Committee, chaired by Brandon Kibbe, is asking for a letter of support from us for their mission. Do you want to come up, Brandon? Sure thing. Great. I just want to say it's a great piece of work. It's very comprehensive, and I can't say that I memorized it, but it's 228 pages 19 days ago, but it's a good read, and I think you did an excellent job.
Well, great, thank you. The committee really, we pride ourselves on being a working committee, and so we definitely set out a pretty aggressive agenda for putting this plan together, to revise and update the open space and recreation plan. The set of guidelines that the state provides is pretty comprehensive and significant. And we did this all with, all volunteer. It was all just townspeople sitting around the table and working on this section by section. And we really tried very hard to engage the public, have some input in this, and have a very open and engaging process. So you may know we sent a survey out to all taxpayers in their tax bills. Got a very good response rate back, which gave us a lot of really good information in terms of what people's thinking is, in terms of what are the most important goals and objectives to obtain. Integrated all of that and had some public, charrettes and things like that, where we were able to engage people and bring them in and try to assess people's interest levels in certain things and set out somewhat, the goals and objectives. Ultimately, there's goals and objectives at the end of the plan. And we tried to set out goals and objectives that really are attainable. It wasn't about going out and buying every last piece of open land in town or anything like that. People spoke very clearly about, using better the resources that we already have. Mm-hmm. And so having that as being one of our primary objectives. So we tried to stick with very pragmatic approach like that. So this plan, once we received back all of the comments and hopefully letters of support from various town boards, we also submitted it to the Montezut Regional Planning Commission. I already got a letter of support back from them. Nashua River Watershed Association, awaiting their final letter of support, and the North County Land Trust as well, for sort of outside agencies to review. Once we've received that back, and we take whatever comments and suggestions and edits, and there will probably be some marginal edits to the final plan, we'll then meet on January 8th, and then submit to the state's Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs this final packet for their review and hopefully approval. And this will give us an approved open space plan once we get a letter back from them saying it's all good for 7 years. And that's meaningful because that then allows us to be eligible for a variety of state grants for open space acquisition, parkland improvements, and those kinds of things. So our reimbursement rate through the state at this point is 62 or 64%. So it's substantial for these types of whether it's acquisitions or infrastructure projects that we may do in our parklands. It opens us up to significant amounts of funding, state funding. So if we have things in our capital plan, for instance, some improvements to Marshall Park, let's say, we could then apply for a state grant and get 62% of the money we were planning on spending back as state funding. So the prior plan was only approved for 5 years. They made a change administratively with an EEA, so it gives us an extra couple of years in that process, which is fantastic. So if you have any specific questions about the plan, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I appreciate your letter of support.
Mm-hmm. Are there any questions or comments?
I also read it and was very impressed. It's so comprehensive. You can tell it was diligently created. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, we had a lot, like I said, we had a lot of support also from municipal boards, other municipal boards. We reached out to the water district, and they were very gracious with their time and provided us with a lot of important feedback. The sewer commission, a lot of great feedback. The Parks Commission, lots of, school committee provided us with a bunch of stuff. So we really feel lucky that we had a lot of great support from all corners of the town.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Now, incorporating that feedback, is that something you do prior to submission, or is that something you do as in an ongoing basis?
Incorporating what feedback?
You know, the feedback you got from the school or from
So
the...
we sought that.
Prior to what I've seen?
Prior to what you've seen.
Okay.
So now we've sent it out, and so we're getting some, like I said, we're getting some marginal feedback back from some boards and committees, but all of it is pretty marginal. So you're not going to see anything substantive changed in the current draft. The current draft is pretty well hammered out.
All right, and this is what you believe is what you want to tell the state?
Yeah, I mean,
Your committee.
Yeah, I think what we were really trying to do was channel what the town wanted to tell the state.
Right.
And I think we did a pretty good job at that. You know, and all of us sitting around the table certainly had our own opinions, but there were also certain things that just did not bubble up. You know, and it was clear it didn't bubble up from the public feedback that we got. So those types of things had to take a back seat. So.
I thought you did a great job, and I especially appreciated the 7-year plan and the action items that you had in there, and I really liked the kind of the focus on Marshall Park and getting that back up to speed, because I think that's such a huge asset to the town, especially the center of town that's not fully utilized.
Yep.
The only kind of question I had was for the forestry plans, since that's been a little bit of a hot topic for some people. I know it's just if you could elaborate on some of the benefits of the forestry plan, or how the open space committee is recommending that it be done, because in the report it kind of mentioned it in a light where we could get some funding out of it, but is the reason to do a forestry maintenance plan to give funding, or to really help the health of the forest, or is it a balance, or how's the...
So you're talking to a guy that has a natural resources management degree.
Yeah.
You know, so managing forests, I think, is principally, first and foremost, about managing the habitat, the timber quality, the wood product quality in the long run. So it's also, ultimately, it's about protecting your investment. And using those, the activities that you do to enhance the recreational opportunities that are on the property. So a forest stewardship plan is different than a forest management plan. And so, you know, what the Conservation Commission is striving to do is forest stewardship plans, where they're looking at sort of the entirety of the resources that are there and the benefits that those properties provide. Personally, I think it's a really important thing to be doing. A well-managed forest provides not only financial resources with the timber that you cut, but it provides a healthier environment in the forest itself. It's just a fact. I mean, most of our forests in Lunenburg, I mean, you look at the town seal and you see there aren't a whole lot of trees there. There are an awful lot of stumps. And there's a reason that is, and it's the reason our forests are largely single-aged and overstocked and generally unhealthy, because they have successionally grown up from fields 50, 60, 70 years ago. You ask many of the longtime residents in town, they'll say, well, that was all field not that long ago. And so the result is you have forests that are old pasture pines. And, you know, there's a real need to manage and improve the health of the forest. So I think it needs to be done. And I can't say I can judge anything that's happened previously on this first cut. I haven't been out on the site, so I can't even tell you what I think they did well and what they did wrong. I can tell you in my own experience, because professionally I cut trees all the time for the work that I do for this very reason. And, you know, we're out there to improve the stands of forest and improve wildlife habitat and improve recreational. When you first get out there and you cut the trees, yeah, it's not the prettiest thing to look at. But ultimately, you're doing an amazing thing for the health of the forest. So, you know, it takes a long time to grow trees, and it takes a long time to bring a forest into good, active, uneven stand management. So, you have to have a long view.
Sure.
So, you know, like I said, when they move the equipment out and it looks like a mess at first, that might be true. Next year, it'll look a lot less like a mess, and 2 years from then, it'll even look even better. So, it's just the nature of the activity.
Sure. Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah, you bet.
Any other questions or comments?
Just thank you for that work.
Great, you're welcome. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to,
Yeah,
relative to the support letter?
move we write a letter of support for the open space plan as proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is it?
Yes.
You want me to read a proposal?
Sure.
Before we vote?
Why not?
To the Commonwealth, et cetera, to whom it may concern, please accept this letter of support for the open space and recreation plan for Lunenburg 2019-2026. The board met on December 18th and reviewed the plan and voted to support it. The open space plan is an important document for Lunenburg's quality of life. The plan is vital to maintain Lunenburg's rural character, support Lunenburg's agricultural sustainability, conserve important wildlife habitats and drinking water resources, as well as enhancing and promoting existing open space and recreational assets of the town. Signed, the Board of Selectmen.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we have a motion seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That do it, Brandon?
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Or now, let's go back to the license renewals now.
So these are the outstanding licenses that weren't approved at the last meeting 2 weeks ago. So I'll read them as listed. Just the DBA name. Whalum Gas Service for common victular, and Whalum Gas Service for automatic amusement device. Conrad's for common victular. Sean Patrick's for common victular and a restaurant all alcohol license. Simon Pure Public House for a restaurant all alcohol license, a common victular and a weekday entertainment license. Donley's Tavern for a restaurant all alcohol license, a common victular, a weekday entertainment jukebox license, as well as a automatic amusement device license. KC Sales and Services LLC for a Class 2 auto dealer license, Dippin' Donuts for a common victular, and Lonnie Orchards for a common victular.
I move we approve the license renewals for 2019 as read by the town manager.
Second.
Are all of these documented and taxes paid and all that kind of stuff?
Elaine did up a memo. Donley's Tavern has not paid their taxes that they owe.
Is that in the report? In
it's,
the, oh, here we go. Memo to board, RE overdue taxes. What am I doing here?
I think there's approximately $7,000 in outstanding taxes.
Does everybody have that memo dated December 18th?
Yes, he's refinancing and plans to bring everything up to date next week. Should we make that one contingent on receipt of those taxes, or
I would think that would make
Yeah.
sense.
assume Elaine?
Is that
handle it.
doable? Can we do that?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
So I amend my motion to include that all taxes be brought up to date before they're approved.
For all of Donnelly's Tavern's
Like
licenses.
approval contingent upon the paying of the...
Yes,
Well, there's like 4 of them there, right?
yes, for all of the licenses, but specifically, because we know about Donnelly's right now.
Well, what I mean is Donnelly's got 4 different types of licenses.
Yeah,
So your motion is to make all 4 of them contingent on the payment of taxes, is that correct?
correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. That's okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That's it on annual license renewals?
Yes.
Ready. All right, our third current business item is a discussion on setting a timeline of action items related to TC Passios Brooks, Old Primary Town Hall, and Ritter Memorial Buildings. So our intent here is not to actually do the work tonight, but to have a discussion on a timeline of what we do over the next couple of months relative to that activity, which is what we said we were going to be working on. So,
The board does have a meeting scheduled for the second meeting in January, a workshop, where the APDC, Historical Commission, and Historical Society have been invited to that meeting.
Do you know what the date is of that meeting?
January 15th, I think.
yes, that's our workshop.
Yes.
And that'll be a joint meeting with the two boards and inviting the society,
Society,
is that correct? Okay.
And what input are we seeking at that meeting?
I think it was Damon's proposal, you want to?
So, I mean, I'd like to basically go building by building with them, almost do a preliminary, discussion with them to determine that, what I suspect is true, that that the boards would all call all of these buildings in question contributing buildings to the district, but need to hear from them. And then, what's an acceptable use of the building? If they don't want us to, if they wouldn't accept knocking one down, what would they accept as a use of the building? Do we sell it? Do we have to maintain use or maintain ownership and rent it? Or what's the recommendation? What do they feel comfortable with in keeping the historic resources of the town, safe in their mind? That's really what I want to understand from them.
Actually, the APDC has put us on notice for at least one of those buildings, the
Primary.
The primary.
Yeah.
They're going on record to claim demolition by neglect, and we would have to respond, we would have to respond to that. The town would have to respond to that. We have to determine as a board what we want to do.
There's got to be some explanation from us too, a little back and forth to say, we don't have the resources to do everything we want to do. There's got to be a prioritization to help us make the right decisions of what are the things that are most important to save and what things, if it's unfortunate or not, what things can't we save? There should be just leveling with what the task is that we have to face.
And it's great to ask for their input and to have a joint meeting with them to hear how they feel firsthand.
If I remember correctly, too, at one of the previous town meetings, a member of the Historical Commission got up about one of the articles and say they weren't approached about that building, so, I think it's the right move to have that discussion with them.
To gain wide support for whatever we're going to do, we really need to involve as many stakeholders as we can.
When the Building Reuse Committee was formed, the only board I was on was the Historic Commission, and it wasn't even proposed to have a Historic Commission member be on the Reuse Committee. And me and Pat Slattery, who was the chairman of the Historic Commission at the time, came up in here and said, hey, we'd like to have a voice in this. And
Right.
I've been trying to get them involved from the start of this, and I'd like to continue that process.
And actually, in all fairness, since that time, they were involved in the reuse committee, and they also, the APDC got created as a result of some work that came out of that committee.
Right.
To complement the village district.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a one, which appears that it's probably going to be the first one.
And will there be a business aspect of that meeting, or will it just be a workshop?
We should make some little agenda up, I would think of it, and give it to them ahead of time so they know what we want to talk about.
No, but I think, Phil,
If it's just specific.
Are we going to do anything else besides the workshop?
Right.
Yeah, it kind of depends. We are not going to have a meeting till the 8th. So my guess is the 8th is going to be pretty crowded. If we get caught up, it doesn't have to be a busy business night, but if we don't get caught up, it might have to share, the workshop might have to share with
Like
some
a half hour or something,
business.
get
Yeah.
half-hour things done,
Right.
and have the workshop. Okay, that makes sense.
One of the things I'd like to do is to hear, I think in the town manager report, at a subsequent discussion, and I don't think all of these have to be workshops, these can be agenda items as we go forward, but I'd like to hear kind of where we stand on interim plans. I mean, in the town manager's report, we heard about the RFP for rentals in Passios, and trying to find a home for the revolving museum, and so what are interim uses? I think the last time we talked about this, we thought we had interim uses that were going to push off our ability to do anything else, and I'm not hearing that today. So
No.
we'll have to see. Any other? Now, one of the things we wanted to do is prepare a warrant article for the at least one warrant article for the town meeting. So I think we should begin to talk about that.
Yeah. I hope we get some information, direction out of this meeting with the historic folks that might inform the formation of some warrant articles, or at least inform our discussion about it.
What type of warrant articles are you?
Just any type of action. What are we gonna?
With regard to the buildings?
In any direction, I mean.
If I may suggest, and I did at the last meeting, if we're going to the point of warrant articles, looking for direction, although I think everybody knows I extremely value the historical perspective of the buildings, if we are getting towards warrant articles in terms of making a timeline and a schedule, then just as we're meeting with them, I think, set up a variety of workshops where we can focus on other people's input. Like I had said, maybe it would be too much input for one meeting, but a parks and open space discussion in regards to the buildings, and maybe we can all brainstorm what are the things, historical relevance being one item, but what are the other things we really want to gather from people. And for me, it would be a sort of a study of open space and recreation in town center, historically, presently, and future use of school campus space. And so if we're putting together warrant articles where we're trying to head in a direction, then I definitely want to get the type of input we're getting from this historical meeting with other groups, hyper-focus.
If we could get the open space committee and parks, but there was some good information in the open space plan we just reviewed about what their recommendations were for. Yeah, available land.
General municipal land.
Yeah,
Would be
proceed.
repurposed.
Yeah, and also just the uses they talked about.
Yep.
Fields, but where, what, how should they be in town? How's that play into this? That would be good to have them.
Okay.
I had parks and open space on my short list right here, just brainstorming, but cable, I think we still need to continue, keep them in the conversation. They approached me a number of times because they have funding to do a new studio, but they're in this limbo.
What's the right place to do it? Yeah.
And we sat on a rented space when, they could have a home that's a town space. Makes more practical sense and economic sense.
For them, possibly not the town in terms of long-term space, and if things change things are changing in the telecommunications world very quickly. If we allocate municipal space at a large square footage 20 years from now, we may not need it. So it's definitely worthwhile to discuss whether or not it's, they could rent a studio privately and apply their rental money to that without it becoming a long-term municipal burden.
Well, would they pay rent to the
Yeah,
town
I'd like
too?
to
I
hear
mean,
from
things to
them,
talk
I
about.
guess.
No, it's good topics, because what may seem like one advantage now, I get concerned about allocating municipal space at a large square footage to the cable industry, where you look at the statistics and cable is a really rapidly changing space.
I think we definitely should have, especially since we've now filled out their board, their committee, we should have them come in. But I mean, their mission is PEG. It's, it's public, education, and government. And the delivery mechanism may not be cable in the future, but there's going to be something that relates to communication around public education and government, and they're going to need to be, my guess is, proximate to public education and government, right?
That'd be great to hear from them.
Another category list I'd like to hear from the employees. They're the ones that work in these buildings. I don't want to eliminate their opinion either.
Yep, I think that's great. And one of the things that hit me, it's a nit, but when you're doing your town manager report, you were saying that the town clerk was saying that we may need more than one polling. You know, if we need more than one polling place because of space, we should address that, but it troubles me to have two different locations, because I've been in that polling building several times where people don't know what precinct they're in.
I think it's size of the community.
Right. But I mean, do you want one on one side of town and one on the other? Fine, as long as it's really defined which one you're in.
People aren't going to the wrong split.
Exactly.
Wrong building,
We don't
not
want
just the wrong sign.
right, we don't make it harder for them, right?
Maybe it's just me, but I haven't seen the need any time I've voted.
But I mean, you know, we've been, it's, like I said, it's a nit. I think when we talk to employees, we should talk about services. And that's
Right.
one of the services that we have to make sure we don't miss if we reconfigure any of our municipal space.
And that's a good question for the town clerk.
Right,
When you have that
right.
conversation. What is?
What drives
what is
that
the
need?
And then obviously we want to hear from the community, and I know we already have, because I attended all those meetings. And really, you know, a lot of what happens in the town buildings is about the heart of the town and making sure that we really do listen to how people feel about their own community.
Yeah, and I agree, but we need to keep doing that, but at some point, we need to give them something to respond to, too. We can't
Yes, right.
can't just say,
What do
keep
you want?
saying, what do you want?
We
So-
have, like twice, there was warrant articles to convey town land, and they were turned down, so, I mean, if you
Well, no,
go.
they said more information, so.
No, but there is a history to a lot of this, and there has been input, and so we want to make sure that we understand, you know, what we've already heard.
As we solidify a plan that we can put before the town and see what they think of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
We might want to consider, not that I want to have another meeting to go to, but the January 29th date, because warrant articles will need to be in by mid-March. So we're already talking about mid-January, so.
I'm not sure I can commit to the 29th that's within a week of the due date, so I may or may not be involved in that one.
Well, we're going to run into that with you, whether it's the first meeting in February or the last meeting in January.
Yeah.
So let's plan on, you know, because we're not going to meet the next two Tuesdays. So let's see where we stand after the 15th and see if we need to add anything.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll set the 29th aside, just in case.
Okay, anything else on that? Or, you know, I think we want to drive towards the, you know, the historic related and the APDC related one first. But I just wanted to make sure that we understood it was part of an ongoing march to a.
The 15th, that's the workshop, January
Right.
15th.
Right.
Okay.
And open space, I think, would be a good second one.
Yeah, I agree.
Do the second.
I agree.
And parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think together, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of the same.
So will we?
And that
will we plan on
we could talk about it, but that could include schools focused on the space and fields piece, you know, because if you read the open space thing, it has to do with coordinating field space between parks and schools.
They talk about everyone.
Yeah, right.
Parks,
Right,
conservation,
right.
and school, because it's all the same, all plays into the same thing.
Correct.
Wonder if the 29th would it be too early to have the next workshop on the 29th? Usually, that's kind of a dead week for a lot of groups.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Okay. We'll see who has interest and
Okay.
who has
And then
availability.
cable, and I think employees, we could have on the same
Yep, yep.
day as well.
And in the background, I think we're still working the financials on our current plan of record. But I don't think that has to be a workshop as much as something that we don't lose sight of and don't leave till the last minute.
What are we working the financials on?
On our current plan of record, I mean, we were in the process of, we were going to have a warrant article to allocate money to do a more detailed engineering plan that we didn't bring to fall town meeting. And we either have to formulate a warrant article relative to that to support our plan of record, or we have to change our plan of
Plan of
record.
record by the preferred option of the previous board voting to move town hall to TCP.
The board, yeah.
No, and I think it also is contingent on the meeting that the school committee had with the school committee
Right.
and what alternative schematic design.
So we're looking for a
was-
warrant article to fund a more extensive study of the plan to move?
No, to actually get some financials together. The town had asked us at the last town meeting that this was discussed to come back with what is it going to cost?
Financials together to do the renovation or financials together to study a renovation?
Well, you need to do the drawings. You need money to do the drawings to find out how much it's going to cost. And then, once you figure that out, you got to get the money to, then you kind of form a building committee and get the money to actually do the project.
This brings warrant article, you're looking for warrant article to approve more extensive
To
study
approve a
of the-
design and the formation of a building
Yeah,
committee.
to approve a design and to form a building committee, right.
It's not a study.
It's not a study,
It
right.
would be to hire an architect to do a full, complete set of specifications that would then determine the detailed cost estimate, what it would cost to build that. Right now, we have the ballpark number from those different schematic designs, but we won't know, a detailed cost until we know what's going in that building, how it's going to be built. all
That's how
those.
any public building
Yeah. That's how-
ever, that's the
No, I
process.
understand, I just, we don't need to talk vaguely about warrant articles. I think we should talk very specifically about them, so we start to understand what it is we're working on. 'Cause sometimes
And
I
that's
feel
why I
like-
want it on the agenda several times between now and when we put the article together.
Right.
Okay?
So we have a semblance of a action plan. All set? That,
Yeah, does that give us enough to begin to put a straw?
we'll have to
Yeah.
figure out dates for the next,
Right.
meetings for the next couple of groups.
Right.
But-
And then what we probably want to do is build in some agenda items on the in-betweens so that we're continuing to move
Okay.
towards the milestones. So the four we talked about are workshops or working groups, but in the meantime, we can have an agenda item in between them.
What
to
type
answer
of
any
agenda
questions.
items for the milestone? Like, what's the goal?
To set the milestones and to determine what the next steps are. We don't have to only deal with this topic once a month when we have a group come in.
Right.
I think if we're taking people's input seriously, then we can't over-prepare an agenda, because that would look like we had an agenda. We'd want to take the feedback and then sort of mold our process moving forward. If we get feedback that people are not into this milestone of ours, wouldn't we want to be able to adapt to the feedback?
I mean, the agenda item could be next steps in the process related to these 5 buildings.
Yeah, it feels like we're really working towards this goal and setting up all these meetings where we've had a lot of charrettes and meetings that we haven't listened to. So I feel like we're just moving in the same direction as always without really responding to the input.
That's because we are. We're moving towards our plan, and we're asking for input from APDC and historical. We're asking for input from parks and schools and open space to move towards our plan.
And we want agenda items in between so we can discuss.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted just a basic basis of what the discussion would be, you could, the meeting after the workshop, it could be to talk about what happened at the workshop. Or
Yeah, did it change the plan at all?
Yeah.
Or did it, right, I
what
agree.
do we have to adapt to?
Mhm. Okay, that gets us enough to get started and to at least have the January one weighed out and then more of a roadmap built on that. I don't have any minutes. There's warrants there, right?
Yes. I was encouraged when Brandon said that, that they put a questionnaire in with the tax bill and they got a lot of response from it, so that's encouraging about putting, educational information in with the tax bill. Especially
Yeah.
maybe make it a different color piece of paper or something,
I just continue to question what is a lot of response. I do,
I read it today to refresh myself, and I read every one of the comments that people put in, which there was pages and pages of that.
Good.
And I don't know how much of it had to do with the fact that it went out with the tax flyer, but there were a lot of creative ways that people use to say how they think the taxes are too high.
Okay, I have a warrant article for accounts payable in the amount of $198,213.82.
These are all the licenses if you can start
You want
signing.
to, okay, and we have our licenses that we approved, one per. Any action file issues?
I wanted to bring something up that we've already discussed, but after we had the discussion on license fees, I asked Elaine Peterson to check when those fees were last raised. She went back to 1995 and could not find an instance when those fees were raised since 1995. They weren't raised in 1995, but she asked me, do you want me to keep going back? And I said, no, I think it's unnecessary, but it begs the question, we raise taxes 2.5% every year because we can't run the town without raising it, but yet we don't raise the fees in 30 years. It doesn't make sense to me.
And yet we do look at other towns. I don't disagree with you, but we look at other towns and our numbers are still, maybe nobody raises it.
Right. Maybe that's the municipal way, just raise the taxes and, because so many of those fees are $25. I can't understand how you can get anything done for $25. I don't think we're looking at revenue sources enough. I think I think in business, people use cost accounting. Okay, how much does it cost to have the e-permitting fee, all right? And then you charge the person applying for the permit the cost of permitting, instead of saying, nah, we'll pay for half, you pay for half. I just don't think we're running the town enough like a business.
Well, it was my idea to bring it before the board to review the fees.
Well, and I think we had talked about
it was the
But
board's decision.
maybe if you had mentioned we haven't raised the fees in 30 years.
I mentioned that they were.
Yeah, but maybe that's in business, you'd ask that question. What does it cost? When's the last time we've did it?
Mr. Chair, if I may comment on the topic, one thing I would think of in terms of this idea of generating revenue from here is these fees do get applied to small businesses that have a lot of strain on them. So we don't want to make, when we talk about economic development, I don't want to create an opportunity where we're trying to make more money off of people who are trying to come here to do business. So I don't want to look at that as a source of money, but I remember recommending setting up some sort of process where they would go up in a small and steady and known way. I think we had talked about with Bob the possibility of saying, okay, this is our baseline, and like everything does increase, we could increase it in a way that people would be aware, so one day we don't just decide to double a fee in a way that would impact a small business in a
But-
negative way.
But I might say that sounds like an expensive way to do it.
Well, at the risk of agreeing with Katie twice in one night, even if you doubled and tripled those numbers and those fees, it's still, the amount of revenue you're going to bring in compared to the whole budget is infinitesimal, and it's going to put a strain on those small businesses to bring much more to the town than just money. I don't think, it's going to hurt them much more than it's going to help us to raise those fees, more above and beyond what it takes to process the paperwork.
It's just an action item. I know that we don't need to have a discussion now, but we should be also worrying about the taxpayers who've lived in town for 50 years and can't afford to live here anymore.
I think another important thing, what Jamie said, is that we did compare to the communities, and I think matching the communities overall is important in terms of inviting people to want to participate in doing business in Lunenburg. If it's an even playing field, if somebody's looking at Lunenburg versus someplace else and there's 2 vacant spaces to run a business, and they say, well, this doesn't look like a friendly place, or these fees look a lot higher, I think the fact we're in line with neighbors makes me feel comfortable with the fees we looked at.
Yeah, it makes me feel like it's just the municipal way. Run amok.
A lot of those fees are actually stipulated to be no greater than a certain amount too. So even $25, it's just an old law saying that fee can be no more than $25.
I definitely support upping the jukebox fee.
I think that's one of the ones that you can't go higher on. No, but that's the point. I think Tom wanted to do away with that one. He hated that one.
I know.
What is it, $35?
Yeah, something like that,
Should at least be
right?
getting 40.
Okay, that was an action file issue. We'll see if it ever sees the light of day.
Yeah, right.
Committee reports?
Capital planning hasn't met.
Okay.
The Stormwater Task Force is meeting on the 20th. I did attend a school committee meeting, and they talked about interface. They're really trying to make that a big community effort. And on the school's new website, they have a community link page, and there is information on interface that you can link to. And they're really hoping that the whole community takes advantage of this.
Great.
It's also on our website,
Oh, great.
and I sent out a town-wide email so people could get that information.
Thank you.
as well.
The Charter Committee met and elected Steve Ashenbold as their chair and scheduled the first public hearing with a small p and a small h for January 9th. They plan on more than one opportunity to present to the town what they're recommending. And frankly, any of the, quote, controversial items are going to be presented at town meeting as A and B, almost like a yes or no ballot initiative, where they're going to try to write up the pros and the cons of each one, and they can stand alone. So we anticipate the public hearing is more informational and give people an opportunity to get comfortable with the current charter and the changes. But there'll be one on January 9th just to get the ball rolling, and then there'll be one that's a little more formal, probably February or March.
Okay.
Any department reports?
No.
Okay. Just looking through our goals, we did address number 1 in our current business items, number 2 and 3. We addressed number 2 in our current business, number 3. I'm waiting for the Personnel Committee to meet again so I can touch base with them on the goal number C with the assistance with committees. And our final old business is down there, number 2, is a discussion on the contract with Casella. So I think the town manager has some information for us.
Yes. So, in response to the global recycling crisis that began in 2017, when China enacted the National Sword Program that has banned materials that were previously recyclable, the town has been in discussions with the Casella about addressing those recyclables, especially mixed paper and glass. which are because of a closure of a glass recycling plant in Franklin, there is no longer capacity to recycle glass. No longer a market for these previously recyclable items. Casella would like the town to amend our contract to begin paying for recycling. According to Casella, their cost to recycle is $55 a ton. The town has countered with going from our current, we pay $0 for recycling to $25 a ton, but Casella responded that that was not possible and they would still be losing money. Although our contract with Casella ends in June of 2021, we could face the possibility of being dropped as a customer. Right now, the going rate for single stream recycling is between $60 and $70 a ton. So the $55 a ton, I believe, is a fair assessment for that need or that cost. What I have before you, you should have the spreadsheet, everyone, with the highlighted items. So I draw your attention to that highlighted portion. The finance director figured out what it would be, the impact to the budget if we were to start this on July 1 for fiscal 20, and the total impact to at $55 a ton to the recycling for disposal would be $58,930, and that would be an impact to the general fund budget because that's where recycling costs are paid out of.
It wouldn't eventually end up in the price of the trash bags, or this is just...
We will need to increase the price of the trash bags, but that's because of the cost of the bags increasing, the cost of production, and the terms of our contract increasing as well. So every year we face the CPI index increase, which is up to 3%.
But does that ever end up encapsulating this, or is this going to be completely out of the general fund all the time?
The recycling?
Yeah.
Out of the general fund. The enterprise strictly pays for the disposal of solid waste. And right now, the enterprise, we are break even, that's where we want to be. We're not in this to make money off the bags. We're strictly self-sufficient. So when the bag prices and production to get those bags increases, that's why we need to raise those prices of bags. But I don't see it as right now, I don't think it's going to be a large increase. It'll be nominal increase.
So the recycling, which is currently free, will have a cost, but that'll be borne ultimately in the tax rate.
Yes, because everyone can recycle. Everyone's eligible too. You don't have to do the curbside. You can recycle and they'll pick it up.
So does any of the things you talked about in last meeting, as far as the education and getting down our contaminants, is that in any way play into managing this or mitigating some cost, or is that just?
I look at it as two separate things, and I want to make sure they're distinct. We should be doing education and outreach about contamination regardless of this. Casella would like to see our contamination rates decrease. We fluctuate between, say, 10 and 22%.
It's not good.
Contamination. So there is a need for education and outreach on that. But
you would think that when it's time to renegotiate the contract, if we have managed to reduce our contamination a great deal, we'll be in a better bargaining position with them. You would hope.
Yeah, you would hope. Yep. And we've requested baseline audit data. That's one of the first steps in the process. And we'll look down the road to see where we're at as well on our audit data to show that.
And they can let us know our rate of contamination periodically if we're getting better.
When we request those numbers. We have like preliminary numbers from them, but they have to detail what that contamination is specifically, so we can target that. So if it's plastic bags or metal, whatever it is, wires that are in the recycling that shouldn't be there, we can target that as well.
So you
But
made
the,
But I want to keep that,
but the $55 a ton that is currently on the table is actually their cost, so it already takes a consideration that we're doing a decent, not great job at not contaminating, and we've agreed to do all these educational things. You know, because it costs them 55 to recycle, and they're passing it on to us, but they're not uplifting it to, what you say, the average was 60 to 70,
yeah.
that, you know, they're charging other towns.
So you said the glass is not, Mark, what are they doing with the glass if they can't get rid of it?
Going into landfills right now, I think, a lot of time.
So does that count as our contaminants if it's?
Well, one of the things that I thought was fascinating is when they pull stuff out, when they're going through for contaminants, anything they pull out goes into their rubbish, if you will. And it costs them $90 a ton to get rid of that. So it automatically goes from 55 to 90 when they decide it's a contaminant.
And I'm not an expert in the field, so don't, but there's also a waste ban in Massachusetts, so there's certain things that they can't put in landfills. There's a ratio. So they have to pay for that, to get it to a place where it is recyclable. But the
So they
state.
have to haul it out of state?
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow.
The state is providing grant monies and doing a lot of other, trying to be innovative and trying to create markets for glass, so they could use it, say, in road byproducts for pavement, and offering grants to startups to start a plant for glass recycling or some other. And I think Groton is one of the towns, actually. So we may benefit down the road, you know, from Groton opening some kind of recycling. So, but these are all, it's an interesting time for
State,
recycling.
everything's in flux.
And one of the things we've talked about is discussing the ability to reopen discussions if the markets turn around, if there becomes a market for glass or if the market for plastic. I don't think, if you watched 60 Minutes last week, the market for plastic just isn't, you know, there's too much plastic now. They can't, even with the China market closed, there's just too much plastic that they can't find a market for all of it.
So we have to all use less plastic.
That's what they were suggesting.
I'm heading in the right direction, right?
So we have to give some direction to the town manager.
No, I mean, if this, it seems fair. We certainly don't want to get dropped as a customer.
Right, then we'll be.
The fact that they're just passing along the cost and not upcharging us is.
Yeah, I'd actually like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to renegotiate the town's contract with the waste hauler Casella for a cost no greater than $55 a ton, in recognition of the fact that the town will need to begin to pay for recycling as of July 2019.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, we'll keep you
So keep us posted, and if we need to review anything, let us know.
Thank you.
Okay, so our upcoming schedule is the 8th, is our next meeting after the holidays. We do plan to have marijuana on the agenda, not on our desks. And we will advertise that fact. And then the 15th is our workshop with the historical and APDC groups. We'll meet on the 22nd, and we're holding the 29th, but we're understanding that one of our members has a higher priority. Is there any public comment from the public? Any public comment from the board?
I'm just going to hand this one back to you, Jamie.
Okay, thank you. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I guess just, again, happy holidays and happy new year. Made my comment.
Ditto.
Ditto.
Yes.
Motion to
Merry
adjourn.
Christmas.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.